All right, guys, prepare to have your minds blown with what is, in my opinion, the best lawn replacing plant. I know that's a bold statement, but I'm pretty serious about it. I liked it so much, I ripped out my lawn and planted this. I'm gonna tell you guys all about it. Ready? Go. So, if you guys are planning any kind of project where you're thinking about removing your lawn and planning to replace it with something, I kid you not, this is seriously one of the best options out there, you guys. I'm telling you. It is hardy to about 20 degrees Fahrenheit, all the way up to about 120 degrees. So just in that attribute alone, it's amazing. It is Ruschia lineolata nana, commonly known as Dwarf Carpet of Stars. Once it's established, you're really only watering maybe once every 7 to 10 days, depending on your climate. Now, unlike a traditional lawn, like a fescue or St. Augustine, you do not have to mow Dwarf Carpet of Stars. It is fantastic in terms of maintenance. Never mow it, you just edge it every once in a while to keep it contained in whatever area you have planted it in. And I like to use composite edging or a steel edging or something like that, just to give it a definite border. Besides it being almost zero maintenance, it is super hardy. You can walk on it, run on it, treat it basically just like lawn for the most part, and pets can walk on it. It's totally fine. It's not going to hurt them. It is a very pet friendly plant. And if for some reason a dog does happen to, let's say dig through it or something like that, it self repairs very easily, or you can just get another flat and replace that section. Very easy to repair if parts of it get damaged. In terms of walking on it, the leaves are small and kind of rubbery and rigid, so it's a nice walking surface, but not too tough. Kids can walk on it just fine. My little girl loves it. She runs all over it. It doesn't bother her feet like I know St. Augustine can sometimes. It gets kind of pokey and brittle. Speaking of St. Augustine, Ruschia nana will stay green all year round, so that's a huge bonus. Then out of the blue, these really cool pale pink flowers will appear in spring, and then it'll reappear again in fall. So there's really 2 bloom seasons. Really cool in terms of providing just a little blast of color every once in a while. Ruschia is planted from ground cover flats or plugs, and it's planted about 6 inches apart, and as they grow together, it just creates this really strong, durable, dense mat that forms a carpet-like appearance that you could just walk on and play on, and it's just so much better than your traditional lawn. It's only gonna get about 1 to 2 inches tall. Because it forms that super dense mat as it grows together, it really helps to suppress weeds. That's right, gives weeds very little chance to germinate in open soil because the growth is so dense. So how awesome is that? Less weeding. So I'm totally sold. And did I mention no mowing? I mean, that's such a huge factor. No mowing, you guys. That alone should be a reason to get this plant. And because of this no mowing factor and using much less water than a traditional lawn, it has a return on investment, you guys. You are going to save money and save time. It's just like, it's such a no-brainer. Now, besides all those incredible, amazing attributes I just named, it is also fire resistant. All right, so now let's chat about how to plant Dwarf Carpet of Stars. You gotta start with a nicely prepared site. Get rid of all those weeds, do an Operation Clean Sweep. If you have a clay soil, you're definitely gonna wanna rototill a little bit, at least the first 4 to 5 inches, so the soil kind of aerates and it becomes nice and loose for the new plants to send roots out and really bite in well. If you have a sandy soil, make sure to use a soil amendment, 1 or 2 inches, and mix that in. It puts nutrients back into the soil and it holds moisture a little bit longer. So make sure you have a finely prepared area and take your time with it. Don't rush it. If you got a lot of weeds, okay, like Bermuda grass, kikuyu, if you have that kind of stuff that's really invasive and spreads underground, you definitely want to get rid of those completely. Do your prep very, very well, trust me. Now guys, this is very important. A few weeks before you plant, after you've done your initial weed removal and soil prep, it's very beneficial to put down a pre-emergent. And basically what a pre-emergent is it prevents any seeds that are in the soil from germinating. And that will be worth its weight in gold when you go to plant, because you are gonna have to remove far less weeds as you wait for the Ruschia to actually grow together and lock in. After you prepare the soil and get rid of all the weeds, now you're ready to plant. So, how many plants do you need? It's recommended that you plant the Ruschia every 6 inches apart. Ruschia will typically come in a soil flat, and there's about 48 plants that are individually started in each flat. So, how does that translate to your space? Well, take your square footage of the space, just base times height, multiply that, and then you will figure out how many square feet you have to work with and plant in. Now, note that if you're doing a 6-inch spacing, each flat will cover approximately 12 to 15 square feet. All right, so you just gotta do the math and figure out how many flats of Ruschia you actually need. As you plant, you could use a small pick and then scoot the dirt back tight around it, push it down a little bit to make it nice and secure, and you're done. You wanna make sure that they're planted at the proper level with the foliage being right at the top of the surrounding soil. It's also helpful if you just water down the flats prior to planting. When the soil's moist, it just pulls apart nicer and it prevents the plants from drying out. And when you're starting this project, don't plant anything the rest of the day because it's going to take a very long time. After you're done planting, you don't have to mulch it, which is really nice. Just keep the bare soil open and Ruschia will do the rest. It will fill in and lock together. Now that everything's planted, let's talk about watering. The first 3 to 4 weeks are super crucial while everything's establishing. There is no one size fits all for irrigation. It is so dependent on where you're at, what kind of microclimate you're in, the time of year you planted in, your soil condition, and what kind of irrigation system you're using. There's so many variables, but the big factor in the establishing period is do not let the plants dry out. After about 4 weeks, you can start tapering back that water and maybe watering a couple times a week. And then after about 6 months to a year, you can dial back to watering maybe once every 7 to 10 days. If you see the foliage start to kind of get a little bit puckered and wrinkled, that means it needs water. Now, you also have to be careful of overwatering as well. If the foliage starts to yellow a little bit, that is a sign of the plants being overwatered. I know it sounds like a lot to think about, but it's really in those most crucial times while it's establishing. In terms of fertilization, it really doesn't need much, but it will benefit from doing a fertilizer in the fall to help just kind of maintain its really vibrant green foliage. You want to use a balanced equal parts fertilizer. And how do you know what that means? Well, when you're shopping around looking for fertilizers, there's usually 3 numbers on the bag. In this case, we want to use 15, 15, 15. That's equal parts nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. In terms of maintenance, we already said you don't have to mow it, so that is a humongous plus. You might just want to consider edging along walkways or borders once a month, once every 2 months, depending on what growing season you're in. So Ruschia Nana does really well as a lawn replacing plant. I mean, that's a given. It's incredible. Now, you can also use it in between stones and pavers to kind of cozy up a walkway and green up the joints of the stones. It's really, really cool to use it that way, and not many plants are suitable for this type of application. So I just cannot say enough wonderful things about this plant. I love it. I'm sure you guys will love it too. I hope you enjoyed this video on Ruschia lineolata nana, aka Dwarf Carpet of Stars. If you guys are watching on YouTube, hit the like, subscribe, and bell notification so you know when the next video comes out. If you've never been to the website, go to budgetplants.com. We've got a ton of information on this plant and many, many others. Thank you for hanging out with me. I will definitely see you on the next one. And in the meantime, as always, happy planting.